Hello again, Talking Hoops with Jason Andera. We're getting down to it, buddy. State tournament's about a month away for the girls from right now, and playoffs get started coming up already next week.
Yeah, you get into the small classes, especially girls B. We're talking next week, we're into playoff basketball. So these teams, talk all year about playing their best ball, getting ready for the tournaments. Now is the time to show up.
Who's hot, Jandy? Start with the boys.
Let's start with who's hot. Let's go with Sean Roach-Valandra. All season long, he's kind of taken a back seat. He's been working his way into Del St. Mary into the rotation. Well, he exploded against a top 5 team in Howard for 39 points. That was good because they usually get outside shooting and they have to rely on Connor Libis to hit from the outside, Sam Palmer. They get that inside presence that Ashawn brings, and it made them a really good team.
It wasn't good for Howard, but it was good for...
It wasn't good for Howard, although Sam Asleason went for 31 in a losing effort.
But Valandra hasn't been playing that much, and he goes for 39.
Well, he's been playing, but he came from Todd County, so he transferred in this year. He's been in the starting rotation. He's getting used to the rest of the team. He's getting 15 points a game or whatever, but he just exploded last Thursday.
One of my favorite players, Caden Hinker at Mitchell.
He should be one of your favorite players. D1 scouts get all over this guy. A junior from Mitchell, 6'6". He can hit from the outside. He can dunk. And he went for 34 points in a game against a ranked team, number 2 at the time, Harrisburg. Last night came out a little bit flat against O'Gorman, but had a huge performance last weekend against Harrisburg.
Jakob Dobney.
Jakob Dobney, he's one of the reasons Vermillion is undefeated. He's taken a huge step up. 2 huge, absolutely huge 30-point games last week. And last night they were in a blowout situation, so he didn't have to put up many points. But Jakob Dobney, he's a guy we got to talk about seriously as a potential player of the year in Class A.
And Vermillion is the story, right? 18-0. They got 2 games left, but undefeated right now.
Yeah, and everybody asked me, why are they undefeated? What are they doing? What are they doing different? Well, Dobney's one of the reasons. Dylan Gestring, another one of those reasons. Nick Sorensen playing defense, another one of those reasons. You watch them and they press the entire game. They're so sound defensively. I think that's what gets you consistency to win night in, night out, is when you have a score, you've got defense, you got rebounding. Jay Drake has them playing outstanding right now.
Vermillion at Flandreau coming up later this week, and then they finish up with Canton, but could be 20-0.
They could be 20-0, and they've beaten good teams in Dakota Valley. They've beaten Sioux Falls Christian, so they've had the tests and they've passed them. Speaking of Dakota Valley, by the way, though, our game ball goes to Paul Bruns, and we could have given him probably the game ball 3 times this year. He's just been up against some tough competition this week. Back-to-back 35-plus point games. They scored 100 against Sioux City West last night. He and his brother both went for over 30 points. The guy's been phenomenal all season long. This is kind of a lifetime achievement award for Paul Bruns. We can give it to him almost any week that he plays, but back-to-back 35-plus point games. He's already done that one time other this year, but he did it again, so he gets the game ball.
All right, girls, Addison Rozell from Redfield.
How about Addison Rozell? Look at the rebounding column for Addison Rozell. 19, 17, and then another 13 last night just in rebounds. And she paired that with a 26-point game, 24-point game, and another 26-point game against Northwestern last night. Unbelievable player, and she's heading to UMary to play her college ball. They're going to get quite an athlete.
All right, White River, this was an amazing performance. 46 points for Valandra Prue.
And going up against Viborg Hurley, who has several good defenders, Sydney Voss, a really good player, and Kaylin Valandra Prue. She didn't come back from an ACL injury. She came back from an ACL, MCL, meniscus, all 3 torn in the same court when she was playing in the Hanson Classic last year, so just barely over a year ago, and has come back and absolutely lit it up this year. A 46-point game against a nearly ranked team. That's good enough for our Midco SA game ball this week.
Don't care who you are. That's a lot of points.
That's a lot.
All right, and Castlewood is the only unbeaten team in girls basketball right now in all 3 classes.
Yeah, exactly. And a team that's been overshadowed a little bit. 1 by Corsica Stickney, who's been number 1 in that class most of the year. 2 by White River and Kaylin Valandra Prue, who's been so good. But don't forget about Castlewood. They won the title, 3 or 4 years ago, when Elena Beneke was a starter, but not as big of part of the rotation as she is now as a senior. She is so fun to watch. She's a threat to get a triple-double every time she goes out on the court. hit 7 3-pointers against South Shore, Waverly South Shore last week. Can shoot from the outside, inside. She's fun to watch.
Don't care who you are. That's a lot of threes in one game.
7 threes. I can't do that in practice.
But yeah, Castlewood 16-0 just beat Sioux Valley on Tuesday night by 17 and still rolling. All right. You have a guest every week that you talk
Yeah.
to? Who'd you talk to?
And we went out of the box a little bit. Instead of having a high school coach, we brought in a coach to the players, Shane Hennen. He does phenomenal work talking skills and building up skills for some of the best players. And I didn't realize some of the kids that he coaches. He ended up talking with me over 20 minutes about all these players, but I cut it down to some of the top players that he works with and what makes these individual players so good. Let's talk about some of those individuals. I want to talk about Michele Cambalo, because whenever I watch him play, he just pops out. What makes him special?
Oh, man. A couple of things. Outside of just skill and ability, it's just the way he sees the floor, which is impressive because he's very fast and very quick. And a lot of those guys that play like that can sometimes miss passes or end up turning the ball over a little too much. For MK, it's I don't know how he does it. He's just as fast as, a lot of those guys and way faster than most of them. And he does not have that many turnovers in a game. I don't know. He's really quick. He's really, really good at stop and go. So that's a lot of what I work on with kids is separation, getting space off the dribble or off the catch. And MK is very, very good at that. He's good at going really fast and coming to an absolute halt and creating that space and being able to pass to somebody or shoot the shot. And, one thing that he improved on a lot that I saw was his shot. He had the driving ability, the dribbling ability. He's great on defense. But there was times where he'd have that open shot and miss it. And he's done a great job at improving that.
Yep. Speaking of juniors, Caden Hinker out of Mitchell, people have kind of had their eye on him for a while, and he continues to take little steps up. How have you seen his game progress, and what has he got left as far as potential?
Well, I'll first start out by saying Caden's one of my favorite kids I get to work with because he's just hungry to get better. And I think that's honestly his biggest step up is his maturity and understanding like, okay, I have a legit chance of playing high level college basketball and I have a good chance of being one of the best players in the state and helping my high school team win a lot of games. So he's kind of like taking on this self-responsibility, like, hey, it's kind of on me to get better. And I've seen improvements across the board. I mean, I kind of treated him more like a wing guard this summer and challenged his feet. But yeah, just major improvements on his shooting, on his footwork.
And some of the Class B guys you work with might be some of the most talented players in the state with Kalen Gary and Joe Seiler. Talk about those two.
Yeah. Kalen, both of them are super skilled as well. Kalen is a good football player too. So I'll get him in the summertime, but when it comes to fall, he's got to go do his football thing, which is great too. Kalen is very skilled, just like super, super fundamental, like very smooth, under control, doesn't go too fast, is quick enough to get by somebody and has a great shot. I think he's a D1 level kid, just based off his scoring ability. And he's just kind of this bulldog, like he's a quiet kid, but he's very, very competitive and wants to win at everything he does. Love Kalen, love how he works. And then Joe is in that same category as Ollie for me. Him, Ollie, and Hank are these kids that just like over the last summer have really decided like I really want to dive deep into the detail stuff, like I said. Joe's unbelievably skilled. Like he walks past half court and he's ready to shoot if he's open and if his coach lets him. And I saw it this summer when he was playing for the schoolers, but he's ready to shoot right when he passes half court. Unbelievable scorer. Another great kid that just works his butt off. And I think that's kind of the theme too, is like these kids are so good, but they have this mental side to them. They're like, they're humble. They're going to work hard. They'll do whatever I tell them to do when we're working out. And they're really just invested in getting better, which is, like I said, is great for me.
Girls hoops, you work with some of the best girls too. I mean, let's start with some of the O'Gorman kids. Moore, Hannah Ronsick are both big level college type players in the making.
Yep. Izzy and Hannah have been coming with me for a while, and those guys Gosh, they're just so solid. Hannah has really stepped up since Emma has left and kind of taking more of a scoring role. Izzy's been solid for a long time. Izzy's just got this game that you know what you're going to get with Izzy. She's always going to be solid. She's always going to get to the rim. She's going to get to the free throw line, and she's just a tough kid. Like she will do anything that it takes to win.
Harrisburg, another team that's they've done very well in consistency. But
Yeah.
Carolyn Carr, she's been a starter for a while, but she feels like she's really taken a step up, along with Breckley Connor. Talk about a couple of those girls.
Carolyn Har is a girl that I always knew she was this good, and she was a soccer player, she was a track player, and she's going to Mankato to run cross country, I think. But she is just this little spark plug. She's so quick. She's got a great shot. And then Breckley, I've been working with Breckley since she was a freshman, and Carolyn as well. But Breckley has had so much potential, and she's filled it, and she's still got so much room to grow. She's going to be going to USF, and she's going to have a great 4 years there too. So long, so athletic, the ability to score inside and post up, to turn around and fade, the ability to bring the ball up the floor and space out or come off a pick and roll action. She's got a little bit of everything. And I'm excited for her. That group, that Harrisburg group and that O'Gorman group have been working with me for a while. And honestly, it's been a great couple of years with those girls. It's just like the boys. They come in, they work their butts off, they're invested in the details, they want to get better. And that's kind of the separator for a lot of these kids.
Lexi Unruh and the way she's come back off that injury, heading to Creighton, and she's really showing that she's a great player.
She has this ability to jump and hang in the air like no other girls can. She'll just literally be in the air longer than the other girl can stay in the air. She's got a lot to her game. There's more that we can add. It's impressive because I see these stat lines and I watch the game, and it's like Lexi had 40, Lexi had 30. And then we get in a workout, I'm like, Lexi, there's so much more that we can add. Like, you are so skilled and you have the ability to do all these things. And I'm excited to keep working with her. She's going to be great at Creighton. Those coaches are pumped about her. Creighton does a great job of recruiting too, and developing those players. I don't think they've had a recruit leave in the last 15 years. I think they have some sort of record in the NCAA. So I'm excited that Emma's there, and I'm excited that Lexi is going there as well. To me, Lexi's player of the year. We'll see how all that plays out, but Lexi is one of my favorite players, one to work with and two to watch, just based on how she plays. Super, super skilled.
Yeah, and like I said, that's just a few of the players he works with. He works with semi-pro players, some professionals, college players, and then high school. He doesn't care. He just wants to talk basketball, and it's just phenomenal the amount of talent that we have in this state, Tom.
All right, big games coming up this week.
Yes,
Start with
let's talk big
boys.
games.
On Thursday, Howard actually has two big games coming up this week. They play Viborg Hurley on Thursday. Yeah,
they were up to number 2 in the polls before they lost to Dell St. Mary last week, and they want to bounce back in a big way, and they have an opportunity to. They're going to get fine-tuned because they got Viborg Hurley, who is on a roll right now. In fact, Viborg Hurley, you look at the teams they've lost to this year, and they lost to De Smet, a really quality loss, and then they lost to a couple Class A teams. So I think Viborg Hurley is a team that's going to be a huge test for Howard coming up, and that game is Thursday night.
Viborg Hurley just 14-3, just those 3 losses, but
really good team. So Grady Sherman is their leading scorer, and every time you look in the box score, he's got between 15 and 20 rebounds. I don't know what he averages, but literally every time I look in the box score, it's between 15 and 20 rebounds. Tremendous player.
Speaking of teams that have really good records that have lost to good teams, Sioux Falls Christian is 13-3, lost to O'Gorman, to Vermillion, who's unbeaten right now, and then Western Christian at Iowa School. But Harrisburg and Sioux Falls Christian, interesting little matchup.
Yeah, you have these A-AA matchups. The A teams this year, the top A teams are so good. I think they could play right along with a lot of these AA schools, and they have. I mean, Christian's 2-1 this year against AA teams. Harrisburg trying to bounce back. Got all the way up to number 2 in AA. That AA rankings are all over the place. And then they lose to Mitchell, so they want to come back in a big way. They've got a lot of athletes. The matchup I want to see is Hayden Muirhead going up against Noah Van Donkersgood. I think there's going to be a lot of athleticism, a lot of size in that matchup.
All right, Brandon Valley plays at Roosevelt on Thursday. They played earlier in the year. Roosevelt beat Brandon Valley by 3 the first time around.
I think these two teams are coming down the stretch in a really good way. Brandon Valley comes in with 6 wins in a row. Roosevelt's come in with 4 wins in a row, which for them, consistent-wise, they've had trouble with consistency. They're starting to come down the stretch and play a little bit better. I think 2 of the most talented teams in the state, Tyler Feldkamp's team, when he plays, he gives them such a lift. And then, Brandon Valley has players all across, including Jackson Hilton, who's really stepped his game up. And Jackson Deckert also has been distributing the ball very well. That's an under-the-radar game that I think is going to be 2 teams that one of those guys could really make a push in the AA playoffs, deep.
Both teams are kind of right in the middle of the standings.
Yeah.
They've lost 4 or 5 games, but AA,
I think you get one of those teams or an O'Gorman, and one of those 2 teams could make a push all the way to the finals, I think.
AA game on Friday, Mitchell at Yankton.
Huge test. Yankton comes down the stretch. They get home games for their last, I think, 6 games of the year, and they haven't played as many games. They're kind of spaced out more than they usually are. So this is a huge test for them. And Mitchell, they started out the year on fire, just beating everybody. Well, they haven't had the quality of schedule that they do now coming down the stretch. So Caden Hinkers, A&M have a huge test coming up against Matthew Morris and company.
You're not putting a percentage on these this week?
No, I'm not.
Put one on that one. Mitchell at Yankton.
I think Yankton's got close to a 60% chance to win that thing.
Better than 53.
59. 59.
Saturday night, Canastota. This is Howard's other big game this week.
Yeah.
Canastota at Howard.
Yeah, so Howard going to be coming off of a big game with Viborg Hurley, and they don't get much time to prepare for a really good team in Canastota, another one of those teams in the same region as Viborg Hurley. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Sam Osleson and company can do coming right back off the mat, whether they win or lose, to play another big game in 3 days.
And then also Saturday, Sioux Falls Christian at Sioux Valley.
Yeah, and Sioux Falls Christian has another test coming off the Harrisburg game. They have to go to Volga and play Sioux Valley, and Oliver Vincent has been outstanding, but Kelton Vincent has too for Sioux Valley. I think this is a chance for the Cossacks to really put their name back on the top shelf. If they can play with or even beat Sioux Falls Christian, that'd be a huge motivation going down the stretch.
All right, girls games on Thursday. One you want to look at, Washington at Brandon Valley.
Yeah, I think Brandon Valley, again, they've lost a couple that they maybe thought they could have won. They need a big win coming back down the stretch. In Washington, we talked with Jamie Parrish last week. He talked about how they basically have top 5 matchups from here on out in the rest of the regular season. They've got Brandon Valley, then they get Mitchell, they get O'Gorman, they get Aberdeen 4 out of their next 5 games. So they're going to get ready for some big-time games. That's going to start the gauntlet right there.
It's like a 54% one way or the other.
I think Washington's got a good shot at being – they're probably in the 60s on this one. Probably.
All right, and then Saturday in girls, Aberdeen Central at Harrisburg.
So Aberdeen Central lost their first game.
To Brookings.
And everybody kind of – what's going on there? Brooklyn Kusler, their leading scorer, has a hand injury, didn't play in that game. They shot as a team right in around that 20% mark. They just were out of sorts. And Brookings played a really good game for the first time this year, put it all together, and just goes to show, doesn't matter who you play on, what night you play, anything can happen. And I think that's going to help Aberdeen Central coming down the stretch with a loss like that. So now they got to go up against a top-tier team like Harrisburg. I think Harrisburg's got the advantage in this one, but Aberdeen Central has something to prove.
Also on Saturday, Mitchell's girls at O'Gorman. Mitchell's girls are 13-3 right
Yeah,
now.
you look at the seed points, right? Mitchell is number 2, and they're not even in the top 5 rankings right now. What's up with that, Tom?
What's up with
they
that?
Need some respect. But O'Gorman's playing their best ball of the year. They came out, had to replace Emma Ronsick. The leaders kind of turned over on that team. Izzy Moore and Hannah Ronsick started taking more of the bulk of the scoring. They've come a long ways, and I think O'Gorman's playing some of their best ball right now. That's going to be a good test for them.
OG had a little stumble. They lost 2 in a row, right? But they won their last 3 in a row, I think.
Yeah, they had some tough games. They lost to Aberdeen Central. They lost to Harrisburg. They lost to Washington before that. They just couldn't get a marquee victory, and then they started playing well the last couple weeks. So I think the Lady Knights are looking for a win against Mitchell.
And then O'Gorman's only got 1 game left after that.
Yeah.
They'll play Washington, which should be pretty
Always a good game.
All right, and then as you said, playoffs coming up next week.
Let's talk some more hoops next week, Tom.
See ya. Thanks.
Thanks.